Of course, right now the city of Hopkinsville is in shock, mourning the death of Officer Philip Meacham. I live in Hopkinsville. It's a tight-knit community, and he was loved by so many. My Facebook feed is full of personal notes from people who just say he was a really great man and will be remembered as a hero. News Channel 5's Dan Kennedy here in our down in the newsroom, I should say, with a breakdown of exactly what led to this deadly shooting. And Dan, of course, you know, the suspect was impersonating an officer and actually pulled over Officer Meacham.
These are some scary, very disturbing details, Amy, that we're getting out of Hopkinsville this morning. As you mentioned, the suspect we're talking about apparently was impersonating an officer. He pulled Officer Meacham over. Meacham was in his personal car. He was off duty at the time, but as you've heard the chief mention this morning, he says there's really no such thing as an off-duty officer, and we are awaiting a news conference from the TBI, and we should get some more details in just a moment from Public Information Officer Josh Devine. But this shooting happened last night at 5 o'clock in Hopkinsville. It ultimately resulted in the death of the suspect, and now on camera you see the TBI spokesperson, and we expect to learn a little more information about what exactly happened in Clarksville this morning. Again, Officer Meacham died last night, and now here's the latest details from what happened overnight in Clarksville.
Is everybody good? Okay. Just for the record, my name is Josh. The last name is Devine. It's D-E, capital V as in victory, I-N-E. I'm a spokesperson for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. At the request of 19th District Attorney General John Carney, TBI agents continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding an officer-involved shooting that occurred here earlier this morning. The preliminary information, and again I want to stress this is preliminary information, we are in the midst of a very active investigation. Well, that information indicates that this incident resulted from the search for James DeCoursey. The date of birth on DeCoursey is 1/24 of 1983, who was the suspect in a fatal shooting of an off-duty Hopkinsville, Kentucky police officer on Thursday night. Authorities issued a BOLO, a be on the lookout for DeCoursey, and also developed information that DeCoursey had stolen a white pickup truck and may have been in this immediate area. Law enforcement officers from several agencies, including the Clarksville Police Department, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and the U.S. Marshals, met here and happened to spot the stolen vehicle in the parking lot of the Cracker Barrel restaurant you see near me. At about the same time, a call came in from a hotel across the street reporting that a man matching DeCoursey's description was there asking for a cigarette. The law enforcement officers, when they learned of that information, started off toward the hotel when two sheriff's deputies and one U.S. Marshal encountered DeCoursey walking across Wilma Rudolph Boulevard back toward the restaurant. It appears at that point that DeCoursey ignored repeated verbal commands, and the situation escalated from there, resulting in the law enforcement officers firing upon DeCoursey, killing him. No law enforcement officer sustained injury in this incident. TBI has a team of agents and forensic scientists who are gathering any and all relevant evidence, along with interviews. In turn, all of those investigative findings will be submitted to the District Attorney General for his further review and consideration. It is always important to note the TBI acts solely as fact finders in these investigations. Any determination as to whether the law enforcement actions, of the law enforcement officers was justified rests solely with the District Attorney General. At this point, I'll be happy to take your questions.
Was DeCoursey armed at the time?
Our agents did recover a weapon near the body here at the scene.
Did he threaten the officers? We're
working to determine the set of specific events that transpired between the point at which law enforcement officers recognized him as DeCoursey, the point at which he ignored their repeated verbal commands, and the shooting. We're trying to piece together those immediate details right now.
Do you know how many officers fired on DeCoursey?
At this point, the information we've been able to develop is that 2 Montgomery County deputies and 1 U.S. Marshal fired upon this individual.
So all 3 did discharge their weapons on him?
At this point, yes, that's our preliminary understanding.
What hotel was it?
I don't know at this point.
Was it a hotel employee or just a citizen who spotted him?
I believe it was a hotel employee.
Do you know why he came here to Clarksville?
I do not.
just a handgun or a rifle, shotgun, or?
I'm not going to comment on the specifics of that at this point.
Do you have any more information on exactly what took place up in Hopkinsville when the officer was shot?
You'll need to speak with Kentucky State Police about that.
How long do you expect to be
All
on
right,
scene
we
here?
have
Well, there's a
some
lot
brand
of
new
evidence that we need to collect, and we want to make sure that we document this scene.
And it's kind of giving us a better picture of what exactly happened in Clarksville overnight. We know that the suspect in this fatal officer-involved shooting is now dead. That suspect, James DeCourcy, was shot and killed by law enforcement officers overnight in Clarksville. In fact, he was shot and killed on a very busy road there, Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. And thanks to a good tip from somebody who called it in at a hotel near there, said this man is asking for a cigarette. I've seen his picture. I know his name. It's been all over the news for the past several hours. Thanks to that tip, and also officers spotting his car in the Cracker Barrel parking lot, they were able to piece together that this was their suspect. We were told just now by the TBI that he ignored several commands, and at that point he was fired upon by law enforcement, and he died on Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Again, that suspect, James DeCourcy, and he is believed to be the shooter of that Hopkinsville police officer, Philip Meacham. We're learning more about Meacham's life as well. He worked for the Christian County Sheriff's Department for 12 years before going over to Hopkinsville PD, where he spent the past year or so. So Amy and Adam, a whole lot of new information coming out of this from the TBI. We're going to get all that on newschannel5.com right now and have continued updates throughout the morning. Back to you.
All right, Dan, thank you. We are tracking this story on air and online. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for live updates.